Welcome back. As I mentioned in the intro, we have a special guest, two special guests actually, on this week's episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. They are no strangers to the podcast. If you've been following the podcast, I've been on their podcast. They've been on my podcast. They are podcast cousins. You've heard, if you follow me on social media, I've tweeted out about their podcast. The podcast is called We Did That Shit. The first introduction goes to, I can't even, I really don't know how to describe her. She's fun. She's energetic. She's a mom. She's a businesswoman and an entrepreneur. And I can't really call her a serial dater because, her dating scheme's a little bit different. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast again. Bibbi, what's up?
What's up, Kyle?
You like that intro?
I'm doing bad in these streets.
Yeah. You cold. You are so cold.
I'm very, very nice. Well, just like my co-host.
Right. And we're happy to have you back on the podcast.
Thank you.
And your co-host, she is also a businesswoman. She is also an entrepreneur. She's not bad when it comes to dating. Welcome to the podcast, Mya. Mya, what's good?
What's good, Kyle? Thank you for that introduction, Kyle. Let these people know what's really going on out here. I'm not bad with dating. My co-host, on the other hand, we don't know, but we're going to get into it.
Right. We're going to get into it. And fellas, they both are single. They both are single. Now, but don't shoot me no DMs. You got to shoot me DMs. I ain't got nothing to do with it. But they're both single and cooling in the fan. And if this is your first time hearing them, you are definitely in for a treat. As I mentioned in the intro, we're talking about the 10 things in a relationship that you must never ignore. Now we talk a lot of dating and relationship topics on this podcast. I get some feedback from time to time from people who say, Kyle, you're old and married. So you don't know what it is to be like on these streets dating. Which is true. I mean, but I have friends. I have single friends, and they tell me about their difficulties with women and men and so forth. So I guess we should start there. So I'll just give you some of the things that I have written down here, and then we can kind of bounce these ideas off. The first thing, and these are in no particular order. One of the first things that it says that you must never ignore in a relationship is keeping your loved ones close. Now, there's a caveat to that because when it talks about keeping your loved ones close, obviously finding good friends can be difficult. If you have a good friend, you want to keep them close, but just like friends and family, you don't want them in your business. Mm-hmm. So, Bibbi, I'll start first with you. How important is that, keeping your loved ones close, and how do you balance between giving up a bunch of information as opposed to a little?
Well, for me, I feel like I'm an open book. Mm-hmm. So if I'm dating somebody, there's not a lot of things that I won't express. I am who I am. I've had a lot of experiences, and we talk about things like that. Now, I will say this, right off the bat. My dad is where relationships go to die. So if I introduce you to my dad, that means I'm not really interested, because maybe no more than a month after you meet my dad, it's over. Because my dad doesn't like anybody. My dad and I are real close. He'll be like, yeah, well, what about, yeah. And I'll be like, you know what? I don't even like him. And something about the whole interaction just gives me the courage to be like, no. But if I like you, you won't meet my dad, because I really want to see where this is going, and I don't know. And Mya can talk about the rest of the family, because our family is very close, and it's hard for people who come into our circle, like say for a family dinner or an event or something like that. They just be like, oh wow, like it's so many of you, or you know, y'all talk all the time, or you going out with your family again? Mm-hmm. You know, so we're family and we're each other's friends. So they don't necessarily get involved in my relationships per se, mm-hmm. but the time is very important that we spend with family. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I forgot to mention in the intro, the two of these young ladies are cousins. So mm-hmm. cousins and very close friends as well. Something you said that before I throw it to Mya, I want to get your opinion on. That's kind of reversed, because normally or at least just in my experience, in the ladies that I did date back in my day, mm-hmm. You know what's weird is, like, I would think like the guys who you liked, you know, necessarily wouldn't meet your dad, or you know, kind of be hesitant to it in case your dad wanted to shoot him down. But the guys that you don't like, why? I guess the question is, why are you sending the guys who you don't like to your dad initially?
Because I don't know what it is about me. Like, I don't always, unless you do something like extreme, if I don't like you, I don't always have the gusto to be like, I don't know what this is, but I'm really not feeling it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But when they meet my dad, and my dad tears them down to me the next day, the day after that, the week after that, the week after that, it just kind of gives me the courage to be like, hey, you know what? This really ain't working for me. And so I know that my dad will give me that oomph that I need to cut it off.
Okay, so it's pretty much a done deal. If you're introducing them to dad, then he ain't gonna make it anyway. You just need that extra motivation to kick him to the curb.
Exactly. Okay. And if you do meet my dad and I like you, like you have to go through like a 2-month training course, intense question and answer, sit like this, walk like this, stand like this, like please, 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 I need my dad to like you. Yeah.
Wow. That's different. Mya, what about you? Keeping loved ones close. What's your take on that?
I think that you should keep your loved ones close, but I think you should keep your loved ones out your business.
Okay.
Our family, like Bibbi said, is very close, and it's hard not to tell your family everything, because as she said, we're each other's friends. So it's like not even like you're calling your family. You're not even thinking about it. You calling your girlfriend like, let me tell you what this Joker did, you know. And you have to remember that it's also your family. And our family operates like we either like you or we don't. It's kind of, you know what I'm saying? So like, if you in, we'll be like, girl, give him another chance. Here, right. You know, I want to get rid of Tony. You know, Tony, you know, Tony is taking me to the store next week. Don't get rid of Tony. But if we don't like you, then we like, Tony? Who was that? Like, we don't even know him, you know. So me, myself, I feel like it's important to keep family close, but keep family out your business, because like me, I'm very close to my mother. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, stalkerish close, you know, but I don't let my mother even dictate to me who I date. You know, like people probably didn't like my ex based off of just kind of like things he had going on in his life, you know, at the time. They liked him as a person, but, you know, just his lifestyle was not conducive to my lifestyle, you know, at the time. But you could say what you want. I'm still going to do what I want. So I really believe in, you know, standing by what it is that you want to do as far as the relationship is concerned, whether people have family or not, whether people have something to say. So, I mean, keep them close, but keep them out your business, the real business, you know.
His lifestyle, Mya?
Listen, everybody grows. You know, some people live in a lifestyle that, you know, listen, it's a little suspect, but hey, I love them nonetheless.
Don't forget her first love story from the last time we was together, Kyle.
Right, my man on the corner
with the mystic.
Listen, I like people for who they are, not necessarily for what they got going on. But that was then. This is, I'm a little older now, and a little wiser. But then, yeah, I like some shaky people.
I just like how she threw that in. She was like his lifestyle, like he was a rapper or something. But you know what? That's a really good point, and it brings me to another question, I guess. And both of you kind of touched on it with your family being as close as you are, and I've seen videos. Y'all are extremely close. What happens when there's a guy that you like and you like him, but you're not really sure the family's gonna like him? How do you? And Mya, you can start first. How do you handle that? Because that can be problematic in and of itself.
No, that is problematic. I will say this. My family has never really met anybody that I date. I keep my dating life kind of separate from my family. Okay. So, and it's not on purpose, but it's just like, if it's nothing serious, even if I've been dating you for 10 years, if it's not serious, it's like,
for 10 years, what am I serious, Mya?
Yes.
Sometimes 10 years is not serious. You know, sometimes you're going through, a transition in your life. You might still be hanging on to something old, and, in the between, you dating other people, and it's not that serious to expose them to your family. But to answer you, don't let me get started on my stuff. Say this. I think that it's important, though. And I think that also when you're dating someone, you can kind of gauge whether or not they'll get along with your family. Mm-hmm. You can kind of see their mannerisms, how they act in public, just whatever. And you can kind of gauge like, my Uncle Rudy ain't probably going to like him. You know what I'm saying? Or I ain't going to say Bibbi because she going to have something to say about no matter who it is. So I'm not going to say her, but it might be like, oh, my cousin Kim's not going to really like gel with him. And that those are the people that you keep away from your family, because it's nothing worse than bringing someone and then they're uncomfortable, because it makes you uncomfortable, because you got to kind of, you with your family is what it is, you having a good time, but then you got to kind of cater to the other person as well, because they're your guests. So that's tough. I just wouldn't bring them around. People be like, ain't you dating Johnny? Yeah, Johnny out of town this weekend. He make it to the barbecue again,
right. What about you, Bibbi?
I'm just going to say that Mya really niced that up, okay? Because I have real experience in this area. When you bring somebody around, you have to, I'm like, oh my gosh, please act right. Please don't say, you be praying that they don't say the wrong things, because still to this day, wait a minute, sidebar. If you follow our podcast, the We Did That Shit podcast, I say it all the time and she always interjects, but she said it herself this time. Everybody Mya meets is on a 10-year plan. I'm just telling you right now. It's a 10-year plan, but she said it out her mouth this time. Did you hear her, Kyle?
I heard
her. Dating for 10 years. Anywho, I have people that, not necessarily serious, because I'm like the kind of person, you don't have to be super serious, but if we hanging out and I'm going to it depends on what the family is doing. There are some things you can come to, However, there are certain names that I can bring up today and the whole family be like, him? Like still. It's just, because they just got around the family and acted the fool, like, and it could be, not even the whole fool, like the one who came to the beach fully dressed.
Wow.
Or
with socks on and Air Force Ones. Who didn't get up for an older woman in the heat and let her sit down.
Right. Yeah, like him. Yeah, he could never come around again. Or the one that was like brought another chick to Essence and then was real cheap. Oh my gosh. Was just cheap. And I mean, he was just my boy, you know what I mean? But yeah, can't come around the family.
They can't come around the family because the family will never let them forget it.
Exactly. So it is tough. So if it doesn't gel, if you don't think it's going to gel, we got one cousin that likes fixer-uppers, so we just don't pay him no mind. because we just know how she is. So like we don't pay them no mind. But it's hard if you're not going to jail, you don't bring them around.
Yeah, I agree. I think keeping loved ones, close, I think that's very important in a relationship. And I think, it's like you said, it's important that they kind of gel with your loved ones, at least to some degree. There has to be some type of balance, depending on how close you are. For me, I don't know. And I was thinking about it as you guys were answering the question. There were I don't want to say so many. There were a few that just never met my family. So I didn't have to worry about that. I think as I got older and I got more serious, my family was important. It was important that, they were cool with my family. And it was also important they were cool with my friends. That was huge because I'm so close to my friends because my friends are like my family. So, if they didn't get, if they wasn't cool enough to pass my friends test, then they probably wasn't going to make it. So,
damn.
Yeah.
I can dig it.
And, a couple didn't. A couple never met, never got to the point where they could meet my friends. So, yeah, I totally understand where y'all coming from on that. Second thing I got down here, things that you need that are, important in a relationship that you must never ignore. Never ignore the point of keeping your word. People easily get discouraged when they feel they're being lied to. Nothing shatters faithfulness like lies. Always keep your word and make promises that you can keep. Mya, how important is keeping your word?
Well, I mean, of course, it's 100% important because then it brings up trust in a relationship. If I can't trust you to even keep your word, how can I trust you to be in a committed relationship, release my heart to you? I can't do any of that if you don't even keep your word. And you need to keep your word as simple as I'm going to pick up the bread after I get off of work. If you say that you're going to pick up the bread, like pick up the bread, my man, So I think that should be the first thing, keeping your word.
What about you, Bibbi?
I agree 100%. And it's not just it is a trust thing. And I won't necessarily say the person is lying per se, but if you are not dependable, that speaks to your integrity. Like if you just going off at the mouth, shooting lip service and you never come through on what you say, that is a definite turn off. Definite. And I don't need my dad to give me no courage to be like, you're out of here. Right. Yeah, that's a really big thing. And that's something I do not ignore. Like the first time I will bring it up. The second time it's over.
Oh, wow. That fast?
Yeah, because it's habit, especially if it happened in a short period of time. No. Yeah, that means it's habit, that you have a habit of talking and not following through. You can't go to work and do that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, no. I'm more important than the job. Nope.
Go ahead, Mya.
And I just wanted to say, I think that especially for women dating men, men are leaders, or at least they should be. You want them to be. And for a person that's leading you or that you want to lead you that can't even keep their word, that's a big problem. So I don't know. I mean, you can give your answer as far as a man is concerned, but for women, I mean, it's huge.
Oh, no doubt. I agree 1,000%. I think it's keeping your word is everything. Your word is everything, and you don't, I've always kind of lived under the mantra that, you never make a promise you can't keep. Now, if you forget to do something, that's different. A woman or a man can understand you being forgetful. But if you say, hey, I'm going to pay your car note this month.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that ain't something you just say and then be like, oh, see, what had happened was.
Right.
That can't happen. One of the best abilities is availability and dependability.
Right.
You have to be both in a relationship if you want it to be successful. And, again, like you said, Mya, if you can't depend on a man, I mean, at some point, any woman is going to be looking around like, okay, why are you here?
Exactly.
Because if the existence of our relationship is built on broken promises, then we really don't have a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We're just here. We're just kind of moving around,
existing.
So. Mm-hmm. And who wants to live like that?
Right, and that's why 2 times I'm good.
Oh, I don't blame you.
You can't. You can't let that linger.
And one thing I've noticed just about, and I can only speak for men that I don't want to say men that I know, because these aren't men, these aren't friends of mine, but men that I have encountered. Normally, if a man can't keep his word early in a relationship, that's something that's habitual. So it's something that's going to continue. It's not going to get any better.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
if he starts off, and it's almost like, I don't know, it's kind of like if he starts off lying, like, he's gonna keep lying.
You a liar.
Yeah,
you a liar, right?
Yeah, it don't get. I mean, it's almost like getting high. It ain't. You're not gonna change. You're gonna keep getting high if that's what you want to do. So, yeah, that's one point there as well. And again, these are in no particular order. Number 3, Bibbi, leaving the past behind. Everybody's got a past, right? Everybody comes into a relationship, with baggage, if you will. And, we all have luggage. So it's about how you handle that. But acknowledging the past and moving from the past are 2 different things. What's your take on, just having the ability to leave the past in the past?
Well, there's 2 aspects. For me, I love people for who they are. I like people for who they are. I will give a person a chance based on him and I. That's it. So, and I don't bring baggage. And, I raised my 2 children. I am, I'm not bitter about any relationship I've ever had. I don't have, I do have trust issues, but I know, I do. I know for a fact I have trust issues. However, I don't make that the other person's issue.
Okay.
So, I have dated someone for a very long time, and they were like, you don't trust. I was like, oh, I don't know what you do when you turn the corner. I don't see you anymore. I don't know what you're doing. But that's me. You know what I mean? I don't put that on you. So he's never felt, uncomfortable or had to question or anything like that, because it's just something that I know, I have. So I don't like to put, I think it's very important to heal. Everybody has a past, but if you haven't healed, you're going to bring baggage, whether you think so or not, into another relationship. And then for the person who you're trying to cultivate a relationship with, it's important, and so we're talking about things you can't ignore. You have to, when those things become obvious, I think you gotta bring them out. I've had to say more than once, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're used to, but I kind of feel like this, and it's okay. I said this, I'm going to do this, and that's okay. Or I'm sorry, I don't take very kindly to people telling me what to do. I think you have to, because sometimes that's just what they're used to. Like we talked about people who don't keep their word. If you've been in a relationship with people where you say whatever and do whatever else, and people have accepted that, and then you continue to do that, if the person doesn't check you and you don't try to change, then it'll never be any change.
This is true.
Yeah.
So okay, so I want to go back before I go to Mike. You made me think of another question. So you said you have trust issues. So how is it that you can have trust issues and not project those issues on the man that you're dating?
Well, because I really don't think it's fair. If they don't show me or do anything or say anything that makes me question what they're doing, I just never bring it up. But in my head, I'm not saying oh, you're doing something, you're doing, or
but
I'm
you
not,
are subconsciously though.
I'm not. It's not subconscious. It's very conscious.
Okay.
And it's not like I'm making up scenarios or things like that. It's just that if I see something, or if I hear something, I may not say directly, because some things could be innocent, but I'll just keep a more watchful eye, or more keen ear to things. But
is that a trust issue though? I guess that's the question.
It's my trust issue. I don't trust anybody. Anybody.
Well, damn.
What the-
It's just,
You know what I'm saying? Just when you thought you was cousins with somebody, you're like, and I don't trust
Don't
you
trust,
or
no,
them.
I can't. I
like,
trust you
that
as far as I could throw you.
Right.
and I just feel like at the end of the day, and for some people, you may have a relationship so solid, and it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, but you may have a relationship that's so solid, like Mya and I. Like, I trust Mya with my life. I know that if something's going down, we going down together. We both, I just know that. However, with some people, especially people that you don't really know well or whatever, like, people, we are innately selfish. It's just the way that we're made. And it's all about self-preservation. So, hey, I don't know.
No, I get that part. I guess the part that threw me off is that I think I don't want to say it comes off. It sounds like that makes it that much tougher for the guy. Because here's the thing. Like, if you go into a relationship, like you started relationships tomorrow with Jeff, I think your level of trust for Jeff should be at 100%. And then if Jeff starts showing you, but how can it be 100% if you don't trust people all the way?
Jeff don't know that. It has nothing to do with Jeff. It's just how I'm thinking. I'm just the kind of person that I think any, things can happen. People be on the news all the time, like, oh, I was married to a rapist. Who knew? You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I'm always looking. I don't know. But I don't make that their issue. I'm just saying, I don't make it their issue. And I'm very cognizant of it. And, so I don't project that on another person.
I told y'all the beat was cold.
I'm just saying.
I told you at the beginning of the podcast.
I'm just saying.
Mya, what about you? Leaving the past behind. How important is that, not to ignore in a relationship?
Well, I mean, it depends on what the past thing that you're trying to leave behind is. Now, if you're a recovering addict, don't leave behind that you're a recovering addict, because you need to remind yourself that you're a recovering addict all the time. So, and you can bring it up with me all the time so that you won't become an addict right now. Be recovered. So that past, bring it up. But if it's a past, like bringing up a past girlfriend, bringing up a past, like, oh, you sure cooked that chicken like Shireen used to cook it. Or, oh, you organized the cabinet just like Jane used to do. Stuff like that. Leave that in the past. You understand what I'm saying? Leave that in the past. But if it's something that's important to you that was your past, but now, like I said, for example, my ex had a little shady past. If I were to meet him now, I wouldn't want him to leave out the fact that he had a shady past at one time. He could tell me that. But again, I don't want you to bring up certain things, like as far as other women and stuff like that. Because to me, when you bring up stuff in that regards, it's like you're not healed from it or you're not moved on. If you telling me that I'm frying chicken like Shireen, you still want Shireen's chicken. And that's just what it is. Because you ain't telling me like
that bomb ass chicken.
Clearly, goodness, now I gotta live up. Now my chicken gotta live up to Shireen's every time that I fry it. It's a lot of pressure. So I think that it's important to keep some things to the past, but not things that you need to remind yourself to move on.
That's a good point. I think both of you touched on some great points. I think it's important to leave the past in the past. I mean, like you said, unless it's something serious like addiction or something like that, but just relationship wise, it's not healthy because and somebody told me this, an old head told me this a long time ago, like, no two people are the same, so no two relationships are the same. So the relationship that you had 2 years ago with your ex, is not the same as the relationship that you're going to have with your current, girlfriend or boyfriend. And I'm a firm believer, like, even though it doesn't happen, I think every relationship should get progressively better. So the guy that you dated 7 years ago should be, not as good as the guy that you're dating 3 years later, so it should get better. And, we all have a past. We all have things that we've done or said that we're not necessarily proud of. And, if you share that in a relationship as you're getting to know somebody, then, you leave that for what it is. I don't think you should ever throw that stuff in somebody's face.
Exactly.
But be cognizant of it. And like you said, as time goes on, you kind of just take mental notes like Bibbi does to see if they're repeating themselves history wise, but don't throw it up in their face.
Right.
But yeah, but you so cold.
Just saying.
Just get over your answer. The next thing that I have written down, I think this is 4. Things that you must never ignore in a relationship. The ability to improve your communication. How important is that, Bibbi?
Oh my goodness, communication is everything. And I think one thing that sometimes people overlook is, everyone doesn't communicate the same way. So I have, had relationships, and they weren't, all like super exclusive dating, but, like dating. I've had relationships with people who just communicate in a different way. And at first you'd be like, well, what the heck is wrong with them? But when you get to know a person and you get to learn their way, that's the way they communicate. And, then the book with the 5 love languages, and all that other kind of stuff. So people do different things. Communication is very, very important. And I'm all for it as long as you're not yelling at me. That is one thing I will not tolerate. I do not argue with men. I barely argue with women. But I do not raise your voice at me. I do not like it. That will end the relationship real quick too. I've never had an argument in a relationship.
Okay, that's impressive.
Very.
I can't say the same, but that's impressive.
Right. Never.
Oh, what about you, Mya? Improving the having the ability just to improve the communication.
Okay, so the question is, say the question again, because I got to make sure that my answer is going to be what the question is. Say
that one of the things that you must never ignore is the ability to improve your communication.
Okay. Yes. You don't ignore that. Don't ignore someone who can't communicate. But more importantly, I think for me with communication, I need to be able to communicate. You could say nothing, but I need to be vocal. I tell Bibbi this all the time. You need to say what you need to say because you need to get it off of you. Whether the other person responds to it or not, you need to get it off of you. And something that you said will trigger that person to, even if they don't change, they'll think about what it is that you say. But communicating it is 100% important. To be with someone who, let's say they don't communicate, but you do, if they're not willing to improve their communication because it's something that's important to you, then no, that's something that you don't want to ignore, because to me, it's almost like, I agree with you, Bib. People communicate differently, but if you don't communicate at all, to me, it's almost like a slap in the face. Like what I'm saying, what you're saying, or what I'm saying is not important enough to respond to, whatever that something may be. So we definitely want to be able to improve on our communication, but more importantly, I want to be able to say what I want to say, and I will.
And I just want to say that improving your communication, it has to do with knowing the person, because like I said, the person could very well be communicating to you and you just don't understand the language. It's because it could come as a shock. For example, like I say, I don't argue, and I was in a relationship with someone and I told him that I don't argue. And he looked at me like I had 7 necks. Like, what? And I said, no. I said, if I'm in this relationship with you, I like you. It's never my intention to hurt your feelings, stab you in the back. None of those derogatory type things. And if we have a miscommunication, if you get angry, you need space. I really understand that. But we can agree to disagree, but I won't argue. And I would appreciate it, if you don't raise your voice. So one day we were out, I was driving. We were going maybe like an hour or so away from home. And something happened and he got upset. And he looked at me. And I just was looking, I looked at him, I had to glance over because I was driving, and I said, I'm sorry, I still love you, but you're going to have to get over it because I'm not turning around and we're going to be together all day. And like after maybe 30 seconds, he just busted out laughing. He was like, fuck you. No, I want to argue. And just busted out laughing and then he was like, you know what? There really is no point. And I was like, there isn't. There isn't. But so sometimes you just have to learn, learning to communicate or improving the communication is learning how the other person communicates. And he just had to, kind of adapt to that.
That's a great point. That is truly a great point. I think it's like you both said, learning to and being open to learning how to improve your communication, because, if you're in a relationship or if you're in a marriage for that matter, how you communicate in year one is not going to be the same as in year three, because there's so many different things that happen, so many intangibles. You grow as a person. So, as you're growing as a person, as the other person's growing as a person, you're trying to grow collectively. So you want to make sure that your communication is still on par, and then, how they're actually receiving what it is that you're communicating as well. Being able to be flexible in the communication, because sometimes it ain't necessarily what you're saying, it's how you say it. And how they receive
most times.
Yeah, because you could say something simple as, yo, hand me that plate. Or, can you hand me that plate, please? That sounds too different. If you say, yo, hand me that plate, I'm like,
right.
Yeah, who you talking to? Right.
I might say, get your damn self.
Right.
It just depends on, how I feel. So that's very important. And I think it's something that I think I've learned as a man, as I've grown up, especially growing just as a man and then growing also in a marriage, just how to try to improve my communication. And then you kind of have to, you like Bibbi said, you have to know the person that you're dealing with and how they're going to receive your communication. Because, if Bibbi, some women respond to yelling.
Yeah.
Some women
I'm not
respond
gonna say
to
they
yelling.
crazy, but right.
And I'm not even going to let you think that I'm married to one, but I'm just saying some women respond to some women respond to yelling. I don't know a lot of black women that respond to it. That's just based on me. No disrespect to anybody that's not black listening to this podcast. I don't know many black women that respond to a man just yelling. However, some of my white counterparts, I've seen it play out. Their women kind of take to the yelling, or at least the ones that I've seen. I can't speak for all white people because I don't know a lot of white people. I don't. I'm dead serious. I know like 5. So yeah, so it's so you have to, so fellas, you have to kind of understand who you're dealing with, because your first girlfriend or the girl that you're dating now may not be she may not be as responsive to your yelling as your ex or whatever the case may be. So right. Yeah, know your role.
Right. Exactly. Know your partner.
Exactly.
Know your partner. Exactly. Know your role and know your partner. Mya, the next point 5, giving a little space. Now it says that I wrote down here, as much as you need to be close to your partner, it's wise to study them too and understand when they need to be alone and understand sometimes when they need to cling on. How important is that? Knowing when to give a little space.
Well.
Uh-oh.
I don't know why this answer is starting off with a laugh. I think that knowing when to give space is huge. And I think that it's real big for me. I don't like someone who is very clingy. I think that people in relationships should have their own life. God forbid something happens in the relationship where you break up, your partner dies, anything, and then you're alone and not with that person and you don't know how to function. So I think knowing when to give someone space, and it could be like Bibbi doesn't argue. You might get a partner who wants to argue. You need to know when to back away, when to give the space. You need to know when a person had a long day and sometimes they just need to decompress before they before you come at them or before you bring it at them. I just think that, spaces, man, it's just like space is everything. Space is everything. And that's not to say, don't let the be start with, oh, that's because she on a 10-year plan. That has nothing to do with anything.
Back on a 10-year plan.
No, it has nothing to do with anything. It has everything to do with
the 10-year thing is going to have to be another podcast.
Yes.
We just have to break that down.
10 years just sounds so long, but it's not really like, listen.
Dr. Mya.
Okay, let's not go there on this podcast. This is about is about something else. No, I really think just to bring it all home, I think space is important. I think people need it. We don't value it enough. People that are in relationships, they don't value space enough. And a lot of times where you don't give people space, that could break your relationship up. Being too clingy, just wanting to be everything to somebody, it could break your relationship up. So you have to know, it goes into, like we said, knowing your partner, knowing the person that you're dating, kind of feeling the vibe, and just knowing when to walk away. And that doesn't mean that you don't love the person or like the person or want to be around the person. It just means that sometimes you need a break. And it's okay. I think that's okay.
Great point. What about you, Bibbi?
I'm going to try to sound as normal as possible. So the first thing is, my me time is very important. It's very important. I've always been fortunate enough to have me time. I have been independent for a very long time. I moved away from home very young. So I've always had my space. Raising children, my ex-husband's mom, loved to keep the kids on the weekends or whatever. So I always could have a break, and it wasn't for me to do things. It was for me to spend time with myself. So my me time is very important. In a relationship, I think that it's even more important to have some time. Number one, give me a minute to miss you. A little bit. Let me generate some. Oh, hey, boo. You know what I mean? Let me get some of that going on. And some people are into that couples retreat, spa day, stuff like that. But when I got my stuff going on, I don't want to be with you. That's just me. I can go to the salons with my cousins. My girlfriend, well, I only got one friend, but anyway, I don't necessarily need you there. Thanks. So I think that personal space is important. And I think one of the beautiful things in relationships, if you can have this, is for you to be occupying the same physical space, but still have your space. And I just think that when you have a relationship like that, where you can be in the same space, the same room at the same time, but you still have your own space. There is a tranquility and a refreshingness and calm and quiet. And I think it's very important. And I think if you ask anyone who has successful relationships, they will agree that space is important.
Preach. I'm about to pass a collection plate. I agree 1,000%. I think it's important because as you're developing any relationship or friendship, even for that matter, if it doesn't necessarily have to be about a romantic relationship, but it's just about, as anything is growing, you have to let them grow individually, and then you kind of grow collectively. So in order for that to happen, you have to have space. And I think one of the weirdest things I saw as a young teenager, seeing friends and people that I knew or people that I went to high school with, get into these relationships, and then they completely, and there's nothing wrong with just diving into because that's what you're supposed to do. But when you lose who you are in the process, and then you're always up under them and everything like that, that's just like, you're like, damn, can he get a break? Can he come hang with the fellas? We all need that time. We need that time individually. We need that time collectively as a couple. And then you also need just your own time where you just need to just be by yourself. Like you said, but miss me. Let me go away for a weekend.
Right.
Let you go away for a weekend. Let's have that kind of time away from each other, so so when we get back together and reconnect, we things will be fresh. They're not gonna be stale, and because I think sometimes when people are a little bit too clingy in a relationship, things can tend to get stagnant. And then I think if you look at some of the relationships from the older generations, the woman may have been so dependent upon the man when the man left, or when he stepped out with another woman, or if he just died, like she was lost. Like all of her identity was tied to this man. That's why I've never been one to, and I see it a lot on, in sidebar topic, I get a little annoyed when I see, women who are married to celebrities, but they're attached to the fact that they're married to this particular celebrity, and it's not like they're not themselves. Like, be your own individual, not be, she doesn't fall in this category, but I'll use an example because the first name came in my head, like LeBron James' wife, Savannah. Savannah is she's very she's very independent. She's not she doesn't, like, if you go on her Instagram, she's not Savannah, she's not Mrs. LeBron James on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? She has her own identity, and I think a lot of times men and women, we get in these relationships or marriages for that matter, and we lose who we are as a person. You should be able to, and if you don't give yourself space, then you're gonna be clingy, and you're gonna be worrisome if that person is going to leave you, because everything that you know and love is attached to that person. No,
and you also stunt your growth.
Yes, you do. Very much.
You stunt your growth,
and subsequently you stunt the relationship, the growth of the relationship. So, yeah, I agree 1,000%. Those are great points. Point 6 that I have written down here: being a good listener. Everyone loves a good listener, someone who will listen to their troubles at drop of a dime. You have more information to work with when you're a good listener. So, Bibbi, how important is it not to ignore being a good listener?
Well, I'm a good listener because I'm nosy. So
you want to know.
And I listen, and I don't even ask questions. I just say the little, oh my goodness, for real? And, anything to keep you going. And then, I listen and watch and I remember everything. I remember everything. Conversations, actions, where we were, what we did, what you said, how you said it. Like, I remember all of that stuff. So I think it's important to be a good listener for my own sanity's sake. And because sometimes when your partner knows that you're a good listener, they can call on you for recall, and they feel real confident in that. They be like, hey, babe, remember? And I'm like, yeah, what happened when? And, you tell them, you're like, see, I told you, and it makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they can trust you more. Point. They can trust you more because A, you'll hold their things in confidence, and B, you remember things, for people who remember. But because I know some people that they can't remember right. 5 years ago. But it does build. It enhances the trust when you're a good listener, especially if they don't hear it again. It will cause your partner to be able to tell you more because you don't judge and you don't throw it in their face. You don't bring it back up to they don't hear it other places. So I think being a good listener is very important.
What about you, Mya?
I agree. Hold, please. I agree with what Bibbi just said. I too feel like it enhances the trust, but more so you need to pay attention to is something that you don't want to ignore if someone doesn't listen to you, because it speaks to everything we've been talking about in the podcast. Like, how much do you value me or value the relationship if you're not listening to what it is that I'm saying? As far as me being a listener, if you listen to someone long enough, they'll tell their truths. So when you are, let's just say, first starting off and you're first dating someone, if you listen to them long enough and your ears are open, they will tell the truth. They'll talk about their past that they don't need to bring up. You'll know if they're a good communicator based off of things that you hear them saying. So listening is highly important, and it is something that you should not ignore if a person is not listening to you. Now, and I don't mean listening to you like you told me what I said 5 minutes ago, because I don't even remember what I said 5 minutes ago, so I don't necessarily expect you to remember all the small details. But for something that is important to me, that I'm telling you that I feel that it's important enough for me to bring it to you, I want to know that you are listening to me, because I value your opinion, and I thought enough of you to say whatever it was that I needed to say to you. So yeah, don't ignore that.
That is so key. I hope y'all are taking notes. They dropping science. I think that's very important. It's, part of communication is being able to listen and receive what it is that you're getting. And, I don't care what kind of relationship you're in. Nobody wants to be in a relationship where they feel like they're not being heard. Because at that point you're like, okay, well, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on? What are we really, really doing here? And it doesn't take much to listen. And, people want to feel like that whatever it is that's being said is being heard, and, their ideas, their values, and their needs are being met in that conversation. So yeah, y'all made some great points, and I don't really have much to add. Next point, and I want to start with Bibbi here. Learning to overlook minor issues like a red car.
Say that again,
little
Kyle.
minor things like a red car, Bibbi.
Let me take some water.
One of the reasons why fights happen in relationships is that, both people aren't willing to back down. Sometimes you gotta, know when to fight. Sometimes you gotta know when to stand down. You should be willing to let some things go. So, Bibbi, how important is it to ignore knowing when to overlook minor issues like a red car or something of that nature?
First of all, let me just say that the red car was not minor. It was bothering.
That's minor, Bibbi.
It was bothering me. I went out. I asked
okay,
him
we're not going to talk about the red car
about it
because the listeners don't know what we talk about.
We went out, so that was not minor. However, what it depends on what you consider minor. But Mya, stop looking at me like that.
Go ahead.
Mya giving her the side eye.
Right.
I love it.
My thing is, what is minor? Because, and especially like the older I get, I think I've always been this way, but the older I get, I have very, very, very low tolerance. I'm a very patient person. Very patient. And my son taught me patience. My son has autism, and autism goes against everything Black mother. And it really did teach me patience. But I have low tolerance. And the difference is, because some people say, well, what's the difference? The difference is patience is giving leniency when a person doesn't know better or doesn't know, or is trying to do something and needs more practice. That's patience. And you can be patient with a person. Tolerance is when they know what you're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They know it's not right. You've mentioned it wasn't right. Oh, I'm going to change. Yeah, I don't take well to that at all. At all. So yeah, there's not, I could list them, but I won't. Some things that people think may be minor that I just be like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. So it really does depend. Like I said, I don't think the red car is minor. Give me some minor things. I don't know. What's
like leaving the cap off the toothpaste.
How many times you going to do that? Toothpaste got germs. It's in the bathroom. Okay, what else? I can put the cap back on the toothpaste.
But you can't be petty now.
I'm not. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that's petty. I can even put the toilet seat down, because, I don't believe in cohabitation, so I don't think that would be going on often unless I was married. So if you got to the point where I'm married, then that's just how they are. Those things are petty. But what's minor? Toothpaste, I don't mind. Toilet seat, I don't mind. I don't know what's minor.
I mean, just the minor things that I guess, and again, it would depend on how you define minor, but there's some minor things that happen in a relationship that, maybe a guy may or may not be doing that he may deem minor, or you both may deem minor.
If he deems it minor, then I know it's major. And
No. I mean, like staying out to 4 o'clock in the morning. No, that's not minor.
That's not minor. That's not minor.
But I mean, like, I don't know, but you're the serial dater. I'm sure there's some minor things that come up. Or is everything major with you?
I don't want to say it's major. I just feel like if there's something that's bugging me, and I know it's going to be, like I'm not going to sit there and tolerate that for 20 years, And it could be, it could be, I don't know. I don't know. I need examples, but I have, been
I
told.
Knew she was gonna say that.
I'm just saying, I have been told that they be like, oh my gosh, you could pick a person apart, but I don't think it's picking them apart if it's something that it's going to bother me. But I think I'm very accommodating. I do. I want people to be comfortable.
What about you, Mya?
Well, I agree with something that Bibbi said, which is you have to figure out what's minor to you. Some things can be overlooked, like I don't know, not calling me back when you said, but some things can be overlooked. And it may, something may be minor to you, but major to someone else, and something may be major to someone else, but minor to you. Example, I don't like smacking, at all. I can't take it. I feel like it's like scratching a chalkboard, so to me, that would be something that was major. Sitting across someone that was just smacking every time I'm sitting across from them or sitting next to them, that would be so major to me. But someone else may deem that to be minor. You can't ignore things that are important to you. Let me just say that. So whatever the thing is, whether it be minor, whether it feels minor, if it's important to you, no matter how minor it is, I don't think that you should ignore it. Some things can be overlooked some things can be overlooked as far as pettiness, but if you feel in your heart of hearts that something is that someone else would deem minor, but it's major to you, don't ignore that. Don't ignore that. And that speaks back to something that we already touched on, which was communication, so you have to be able to communicate with the person and say, hey, I didn't like that, or, whatever that may be, because like Bibbi said, we can't think right now of examples, but we know what some things may be minor, like, girl, you thought that, like a guy coming in with, and I'm just using this as an example. This is not how I think, but if he comes in with a Nike shirt and Adidas sneakers and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe, you may tell your girlfriend that, like, girl, I can't believe he had on, and she might be like, what? That's cosmetic. You could change that. You could go and help him pick out a pair of Nikes to match that shirt. Right. Whatever the case is, that could be something that's so minor to someone else, but literally so major to you. So you really just have to figure out what is your thing, and but don't ignore how you feel, no matter how minor it is.
True indeed. I just thought of one of my friends, he was telling me he was getting to know this girl, a young lady, I should say. And, he would go over to her crib, they kick it or whatever like that. And when he went to her crib and she lived by herself, there was always like a pile of dishes in the sink.
Trifling.
And like her crib was nice, wasn't like she had a bunch of stuff going on, but it was just like always a bunch of and like that was just like something. And to me, I was like, well, I mean, that's something you could say, hey, you got dishes in your sink, like that. But that was, to me, I thought that was something minor that you could kind of get around. But he was like, he stopped talking to her because he was just like tired of going to her crib, seeing like 13 dishes in the sink, and it's just her by herself, you know.
You knew he was coming. You couldn't do the dishes real fast. Like,
and get some paper plates. It's just
what if the guy comes over to your crib and he takes his shoes off and he tracks dirt or snow into the house? You know, that type of thing. Is that?
Well, he don't have no home training. That's not minor. I can't raise another man. Come on now. That's home training. I can't be involved in that.
Ah, she's so
I'm just saying. That's home training. I mean, but these things, like, you consider minor. We were just having a conversation with a friend, one of Maya's friends, and, you know, Maya says that we're similar, me and the friend. And she said, you know, she went on a date with a guy and she just kept overlooking things. And she was like, you know, that was bothering her, but she overlooked it. That was bothering her. She overlooked it. And it wasn't like the greatest date, but at the end, she was like, oh, you know what? I might go out with him again. But the guy said that he wasn't interested in going out with her again. And she was like, well, I'll be damned. You know, and she was like, so she just asked him, you know, why? And he said some things, like, they were dumb. But one of the things he said was, he was like, and your car is kind of messy. And my point to her was, if something is bothering you, you make sure, you know, you either exit or say something or do what you have to do, because you see the other person won't have no problem cutting it off, even if it's something like minor. You know, the other person may not have a problem with it. So you be you and allow them to be them, because, you know, everybody is not for everybody. You can like someone and it's just not a good fit for whatever reason. And the reason may be petty, but to that person, just like Maya said, it may be petty to you, but it's not to me. And, you know, public service announcement, smacking is like, nobody wants that. That's like the worst. Come on. Smacking, sitting at a table smacking.
Like you said, that's home training or the lack thereof.
Exactly. And I can't be, you know, I ain't nobody's mama. I mean, I am, but
I feel you. I think it goes back to what you said. It's some of it is kind of figuring out what's minor, because what is minor to me may not be minor to the next man. But I think you have to, you know, part of effective communication is being able to know how to say something, you know, if something's bothering you. And then also, you know, you kind of, in a relationship, you kind of pick and choose your battles, if you will. You pick and choose your fights, not physical or mental fights, but just you kind of come to the idea of, okay, is this worth arguing for? Because some things honestly just aren't worth arguing for. Sometimes you just gotta let shit slide. And you got to figure out what shit you're going to let slide, what you're not going to let slide. And I think that kind of festers in any type of relationship, particularly, you know, if you have people who've been together for a while. Now, when you're getting to know somebody, but I think when you're getting to know somebody, I think that's when you, for lack of a better term, kind of lay the ground rules as far as what you like, what you don't like. And then you kind of see from there, because they, you know, that way you're not 3 months in and they're still doing something like picking their teeth with their finger. And you're like,
oh my goodness.
I couldn't imagine.
And, you know, you're not 3 months in saying, yo, that I'm really annoyed by you doing that. So yes, I totally agree on that. Next point, Bibbi, I'll start with you. Staying positive. Relationships can be complicated. What's crucial is when you have challenges, being able to look for the solutions. Staying positive through the challenges will help you win. So how important is it not to ignore the ability to stay positive?
Well, I like to think that I'm a very positive person. And I really do try to encourage people through any and everything, because the fact of the matter is, you know, the situation may be grim, but if you wake up tomorrow, you have another opportunity. I think that, you know, it's in the valley that we grow. So as long as the person is willing to try and open to suggestions, I think it's very important to encourage people. No one, and I mean absolutely positively no one became successful without failures. So that it's just how it is. So I think it's very important not to, and I just don't like to beat people down. I don't like to beat people down. It's, there's always an encouraging word that could be said. At one point, I was like paying somebody's Jaguar payments at Hallmark because I would just send cards to all people I didn't even know, like the sick and shut-in list at church. Like, oh, hey, I saw your name on the list. I'll just let you know I'm praying for you. So I just think it's there is power in positivity as long as, and this is something that should not be overlooked, don't get yourself involved with potential. Because you can encourage and be positive until the cows come home. But if all they had is potential and they're not doing anything, you are wasting your time.
Preach.
So what is Mr. Knows It says? Hey, be positive.
Yeah, think positive, act positive, and you will become a positive person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Words to live by. What about you, Mya? Staying positive. How important is it not to ignore that?
Well, I don't want to ignore that someone is not positive, because if you're not positive or able to see the other side of a situation, it speaks to how you deal with conflict, how you deal with life, how you deal with me. If we can't be positive enough to say, hey, we want to get through it, I can't look at you as the person that I'm going to grow with, because things aren't always on the up and up. Things aren't always happy. Sometimes negativity comes in, but you have to be able to be a person that can look past the negativity and work through the negativity. And if you aren't exhibiting that is a problem. I will say I'm not the most positive person when it comes to a lot of things. I'm very pessimistic when it comes to a lot of things, and so being pessimistic doesn't bring forth a lot of positivity. And I mean, like, I don't want to say it like I'm so negative or like I'm down, but it's important for me to have a partner who can look past that and see the positive in it. It helps to build the next person. Positivity really does help to build the next person. And you being positive will give me something to look forward to. Like, okay, you know what? If he thinks that this is, then we can do it. If you think that we can push through it and we can do it. So positivity is very important. You don't want to be with a Debbie Downer. You spoke about that in past podcasts, people just being a Debbie Downer and in return that bringing you down, so positivity is very important. I took what you said on our podcast, what Mr. Knows It said, and I really applied that to my thinking. I want to be positive. So, Mr. Knows It. Thanks, Kyle, for dropping it down.
No problem.
And, look, don't be with a Debbie Downer. They're only bring you down. So positivity is very important in a relationship, and you don't want to ignore a person that can't see a silver lining in anything,
Hey, you said it. I mean, it's like you said, it's thinking positive, acting positive, and you'll become a positive person. It's an affirmation. It's something that, I like I said, I live by it. I mean, I remember just growing up and I heard this song and they said, sunny days, everybody loves them. Can you stand the rain? And I mean, right. Like when the first time I heard the song, I didn't know what they were talking about, but those lyrics meant so much more as I got older, because that's what's going to happen in relationships. It's not all fun and sun. It's going to be, some doom and gloom. You're going to have rough patches. What can you do? Can you look at the positive that's coming out of the storms that you're in? If you can't, then, you got to be able to see some type of, like you said, Mya, some type of silver lining. If you can't, then you may or may not be the one for me. Because, you know, you got to understand whatever you're going through that's bad, you're going to come out of it at some point.
Exactly.
I mean, we all do. So I agree 1,000%. It's a mindset, and it's easy, I think, nowadays to kind of, I don't want to say it's popular, but I mean, we see people, and now there are people who are clinically depressed, right? And there are people who are depressed that aren't being treated for depression. And I think sometimes, you know, when we see it a lot on social media, you know, that's the first thing people say, well, I'm depressed, so I don't see things the way that you see things. No, you don't necessarily have to see things the way that I see them, but also understand that, like you said, Bibbi, if you wake up and the blood is flowing, you got a chance. Right. You got, you know, that's about as positive as you can be. You got a chance. I don't care what happened yesterday. You got a chance. I don't care if you got $10 in your bank account and your gas tank is below E. You got a chance. You got a chance to do something today because somebody didn't wake up. So I think, you know, if you look at it from that mindset, then, you know, that's at least a step in the right direction at the very least. Point 9, I think, this is very important. Bibbi, things that you must not ignore in a relationship: neglecting yourself. As much as you need to be committed to making your relationship work, you must also take care of yourself. Carry yourself with high self-esteem. Never let your confidence shrink. You must understand that you are unique and special. If you think so, your partner will see this and treat you as such. How important is it not to neglect yourself, both mentally and physically?
You know what, Kyle? I appreciate this opportunity. This is just perfect because I was like, how am I going to bring country music into this podcast? And, you know, Blake Shelton, you got to love Blake, you know. He sings a song called The Guy with the Girl. I love that song. And the song says, I'm just the guy with the girl everybody wants to know. You know, they're just wishing she was there all alone, wondering how I ever got your hand in mine. You know, looking over at you like, ain't she beautiful? But anyway, it's a great song. You should take a look. You cannot, and this was literally the downfall of my most serious relationship, because in my mind, I always just wanted to be a pretty and smart housewife, no children, because I looked at marriage as like a partnership, and like my job was to help my husband get to where he wanted to be. And, you know, that I had to be smart and trophy. You know what I mean? That was my dream. It didn't work out. But that's neither here nor there. So I've always been ambitious. I'm a very ambitious person. And this is how I learned about the whole getting stuck in potential. I've always been very ambitious, and if there's a new challenge at the job, like, you don't have to ask me. It doesn't have to be my job. I'm always going to try to do something and be like, oh, you know what? I tried this. Well, you think this will work? And, you know, so that's how I've always gotten opportunities, consulting opportunities, promotions, and things like that. And it is very important for you to invest in yourself, to continue to believe in yourself, for you to grow, if that is what you desire to do, regardless of what a partner may think. Because now, I loved this man. I loved him. But you have to love yourself more. Because the fact of the matter is, if we would have continued, I would have been miserable, because you can't dim the sun. You know, you can put up an umbrella to help protect you a little bit, give you a little bit of shade, but it's still going to come shining through. And I think that when people ignore who they are, their dreams, their aspirations, it changes who you are as a person. It changes who you are. So that's very important. So just going to throw that out there. You know, I need somebody that's okay being the guy with the girl.
I'm just saying.
What about you, Mya?
Oh, well, I'm all about self-care, you know, in and out of a relationship. That's why I think that space is very important. It's probably why people think that I'm in these long-term dating situations. I mean, you know, because not selfishly at all, you know, when I'm in it, I'm in it. Whether it be in a long-term dating situation or whether it be in a real relationship, you know, I'm a very loyal person, but nothing comes before me, meaning that when I came into the relationship, it was me. And when I leave out of the relationship, no matter how we leave out of the relationship, whether we break up, whether someone passes away, it's still going to be me. And if you don't take care of you, first of all, if you don't take care of you, I would never want a partner who did not want me to practice self-care. You know, I would never want someone who wanted me to be all about them and neglect myself, because, you know, I say what Neo says all the time. We are, what he said in his song, excuse me, we are a force when we're what does he say?
Moving by ourselves.
We're moving by ourselves, but we're a force when we're together.
All the time.
I want to be a movement. I want to bring something into the relationship so that we can be that force. If I don't take care of myself, how do you expect me to be a movement? So I think that self-care, both mentally and physically, are very important. Physically, especially, as well as mentally, because I want to look good for myself. I want to be able to look in the mirror and see something looking back at me. If working out is important to me, I want to do that. You know, going to get your hair done, going to get your nails done, you know, things of that nature. It gives you time by yourself to reflect on yourself and on the relationship. You're not coming to the nail salon with me. You're not coming to the hairdresser with me. So it gives me time to think. When you go to the barbershop, it gives you time to think. You know, it gives us time to, like you said, Bibbi, miss each other and then come back, even if it's for a couple of hours. You know, it gives me time to cut up and let loose, and gives you time to do the same. I want my partner to be attracted to me mentally and physically. So if I'm taking care of myself, then they will as well. That's important in a relationship. You know, you want somebody to look back at you and say, hey girl. And I want to look at my man and say, hey, you know, right. So if you're not taking care of yourself, how do you expect to do that? And you touched on losing yourself, how you hate to see people losing themselves in a relationship. You know, people have to remember that your life does not revolve around another person. Your life revolves around yourself. You have to take care of yourself. At the end, you are really all you have, because when you cross over to heaven or hell, it's just you. You know what I'm saying? It's just going to you. It's not going to be me and Johnny, who I'm attached to. It's not going to be any of that. It's just going to be you. You're born by yourself and you die by yourself. So don't lose yourself within any situation, whether that be a relationship romantically, a relationship with a friend. You know, don't lose yourself. Take care of you first.
Preach that.
And it's like what they say. I'm sorry to cut you off. They say, when you know how they always preach, pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. Pay yourself attention. Pay yourself financially. Pay yourself mentally. Pay yourself emotionally. And it goes back to your positive. Mr. knows it. Be positive. What is it? Kyle, say it now.
Think positive. Act positive, and you will become a positive person.
Exactly. And self-care will make you a beautiful person, both mentally and physically.
That is so true. That is so true. I mean, I really don't have much to add. I think you both nailed it. You can't neglect yourself. You know, self-care, both, like you said, mentally and physically. And all three of us have seen people you know, lose themselves physically once they get in a relationship. Nah, you keep getting your hair done, keep getting your nails done. Fellas, keep going to the barbershop, you know, go to the gym. You know, like you said, you don't necessarily have to look good for your mate. You want to look good, but you should want to look good for yourself more than anything else. And, you know, and don't neglect yourself in that process, because you owe that to yourself to continue to maintain and to be better and be a better person, not just physically, but becoming a better person, and also, you know, pushing yourself to be better. Your mate should be pushing you and encouraging you to be better, but it also has to come from within as well. So great points on that. The last thing I got, point 10, and I'll start first with Mya. Staying committed to the relationship. Part of being in a relationship is being committed to the commitment. People, you know, express their fears about being in a committed relationship, but you absolutely have to be, for one, committed to being committed to the commitment, because that's where, you know, basically ends and begins. You know, there's one thing to be alone and there's another thing to be in a relationship. But when you're in a relationship, you should not give up on being committed to the commitment. Be happy and be yourself. So Mya, how important is it not to ignore to being committed to the relationship?
Well, that's everything. If you're talking about, that's everything. If you're talking about being in a romantic relationship, even if you're talking about being in a friendship, be committed to this friendship, you know, because if you're not, then what do I need you for? Commitment is everything. And if someone, I mean, this goes without even saying, if you see that someone is not committed to the relationship, it's like, we're not in a relationship, you know. We might have a situationship, but we don't have a relationship. So it's of course it goes without saying that it's important to be committed to the committed relationship. Now, I feel like in my older age, I feel like if you're not committed to the relationship, then I'm walking away. In my younger years, I felt like I'm committed as you're committed, you know, meaning if you half-assing this, I'm half-assing this relationship, you know, if I've decided to stay in the relationship. But being committed, it should go without saying. If you're not, what are we really doing? Right. Why are we even here? So don't ignore. I mean, I don't even know why they had that on the list. Don't ignore don't ignore someone not being committed to you. I mean, that's kind of, and commitment goes without saying for other things too. It goes to the communication. It goes for, what else did we talk about? You know, I can't remember what I said 5 minutes ago. It goes to
about
trust.
It all. Not neglecting yourself.
Right.
Staying positive, minor issues.
And being committed goes to all of that. You know, just with the self-care. Be committed to going to the hairdresser every 2 weeks so that you can look good for your mate. Be committed to listening to the person. Be committed to trusting the person, you know, that you're with, and trusting yourself in the process. So commitment means everything.
Great points. What about you, Bibbi?
I feel like life is about choices, and people who make better choices live better lives. And commitment is a choice that we make daily. We commit to jobs, we commit to people, we commit to duties, we commit to a lot of things. And people who have more difficult times, I think studies will show, have difficulty with commitment. So, and people, it seems, people who pursue relationships, there are people who do pursue relationships who have commitment issues. You know, they have commitment issues, but they want to be in a relationship. And that proves to be very difficult. You cannot overlook, and there are signs. Somebody could really, really be into you. And the issue is their fear of commitment or their lack of knowledge about commitment. You know, because they could really feel like they're committed, even though their actions don't show. So, and it speaks about how you communicate, how everybody may not communicate the same way. You know, it's words, it's actions, it's lack of words. there are a lot of things, but commitment is something that we can't ignore, but we also can't take for granted. You can't, and it's sad, it may sound crazy, but you cannot take for granted because somebody says, I want to be with you, that they are committed to you. You cannot take that for granted. And I just, me personally, I believe that once I make a decision, I have to ride that out. I am a person who is very, very, very into accountability. I don't like if things happen, they was like, oh, well, why didn't you tell me this? Because in my mind, it sounds like an excuse, and I don't do excuses, and I believe in accountability. Yes. So if you're going to make a decision, you have to commit to it. And that's something I cannot overlook. Those little commitment nuances. If you got 3 and 4 outfits out and you don't know what to wear, that decision making stuff and all that kind of stuff, that, you got to look at those things.
No, that's small.
That's minor.
That's minor.
That's to some people. However, and let's just be real. Maya and I are alpha females. Right. And a lot of times men say, oh, well, they that kind and they want to be the boss and all that kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is, and I'll just speak for myself, in my life, I'm the boss because I have to be. I have no choice. But if I'm in a relationship, that's one of the things, at least take half of it off of me, half of the decision making, half of the planning, so I don't have to be in charge all the time. And I don't want to be. I don't want to be. And even if you make a decision for us that I don't necessarily agree with, I need to know that you consider me enough, or you're committed enough to take in consideration what I may feel about the situation and then make the decision. So even if it's not the decision that I would make, you say, I know that you would probably want to do this, but I thought about it and this, and this, and I know you would probably think that, but that's why I went with this. You know what I mean? So because you're committed. And that speaks to the trust.
That is so true. And all of that stuff is...
know that I don't have. So
look at you. It was so cold. I really don't have much to add other than the fact that, it is so true. You have to be committed to the commitment of the relationship. If you don't have a commitment, then, it's just words, you're wasting your time. And as you get older, you're not really, who wants to waste that? Nobody has time to waste. We don't know how much time we got. So the last thing, the one time is the one variable that we have no control over. So, nobody wants to waste their time and be hopping out of relationships. But yeah, I think that's very key. Y'all made some great points.
That's the 10-year plan.
we definitely gonna talk about this 10-year thing on the next podcast. But before we get out of here, let me first and foremost thank you, ladies, for coming on the podcast. It has been a pleasure to have you guys on here. I'll be the first to admit, anytime we talk relationships and stuff like that, I never know how stuff is going to be received. And even one of the previous podcasts that I've done, I think I did one on toxic relationships. I had 4 people hit me up and say, hey, my relationship is just like that. Our relationship that I was in was just like that. I really appreciate you talking about it on the podcast. And it's stuff like that that you don't really think about when you're recording or planning to do something like that. But I came across this in my reading, and I was like, these ladies would be perfect for it because they have a different perspective. They're not the old married guy in the room. So I had to get y'all on. But again, thanks for coming on. Before we get out of here, Bibbi and Mya, tell them where they can find, where they can do some shit and put out your social media information.
Thanks again, Kyle, for having us. We really appreciate it. We love being on the show, and we love having you on our show.
Coming back.
Of course you are. we got to find a perfect topic for you. But You can follow us on all social media. We are at We Did That Shit. It's one word, We Did That Shit. You can find us anywhere where you can listen to your free podcasts. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, Google Play. You can find us anywhere. Literally anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find We Did That Shit. Follow me on my personal Twitter. It's MyMy13. That's MYMY13.
And I'm at Bibbi and Mya. That's BIBBIAMINA.
Yeah, so thanks again, Kyle. You know, we hope to get some feedback for this show. You know, hopefully your audience doesn't think that we're too crazy. And we hope that everyone enjoyed us on the show.
Yes.
No doubt. Well, we definitely enjoyed having you. You listening, you know how to find me. I'm all over the place. So for Bibbi and for Mya, I am your boy 12 Kyle. Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. We'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.